Who is that? It's Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. Now, I know some of you here on Planet are going to be like, oh, come on.
Weird analogy was that? It didn't make any sense. I bet that woman never actually said that.
100%.
What is this obsession with Meghan Markle? No matter what she does, it seems like she cannot do anything right.
You just can't keep faking it. It's too hard. She never stops whining. These two are the worst. I just can't stand her. She's such a phony. Something strange happened in 2025. Nobody saw it coming, not even the people who can't stand her. Because this year, out of every celebrity on the planet, the actors, the singers, the scammers, the reality stars, people who got arrested, people who should have been, the person who ended up as the most disliked celebrity of the year was Meghan Markle. And it wasn't even close. Her name didn't just land at the top of the list. It launched itself there. Above Amber Heard, above the Kardashians, above people with actual criminal charges, she's more than twice as disliked as the second-place celebrity. Double the hate. This wasn't normal criticism, not tabloids doing their thing. Something shifted. People who used to support her started rolling their eyes. Others who didn't care started paying attention for all the wrong reasons. And the skeptics? They felt vindicated. Because 2025 became the year Meghan Markle tried to reinvent herself again and accidentally showed exactly why so many people don't believe her anymore. It wasn't one moment. It was everything. A full year where every photo shoot, interview, PR move, and carefully staged camera moment backfired harder than the one before it. So let's break down how this happened. The scandals, the contradictions, the viral disasters, the Kardashian embarrassment, the pregnancy performance, the Harper's Bazaar mess. This is the story of how Meghan Markle didn't just lose the public, she pushed them away. Before we get into it, just know this gets wild. The pregnancy video, the Kardashian erasure, the Harper's Bazaar disaster. You're not ready for how this all fell apart. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because you don't want to miss this. Let's dive in. 2025 was supposed to be Meghan Markle's comeback year, a clean slate, a glamorous reintroduction to Hollywood, a carefully crafted rebirth moment where she'd finally prove everyone wrong and show the world she belonged in the spotlight on her own terms. Her team had it all planned out. New projects, fresh interviews, a whole rebrand strategy designed to make people forget about the controversies and see her as the misunderstood icon she believed herself to be. Instead, everything collapsed at once. It started quietly. Small missteps here and there, little moments that made people raise an eyebrow, but nothing that seemed catastrophic at first. A weird photo op, an awkward quote, a tone-deaf Instagram post.
About Harry. So I think it was very naive of her to imagine that she may be contained to just philanthropic interests.
The kind of stuff that usually blows over in a day or two. But then it snowballed. Fast. And suddenly the internet was drowning in clips, photos, and scandals all circling around the same person. Every attempt she made to push a new version of herself into the world got pushed back twice as hard. And every time she tried to control the narrative spun further out of her control. Here's where it really started falling apart. The interview with Jamie. What should have been a simple, friendly conversation somehow made everything worse. Because Meghan's stories shifted again. Her timelines got blurry. Details didn't match up with earlier interviews. Previous statements contradicted the new ones. Ages, dates, sequences of events, all of it started contradicting itself. And the internet, listen, it never forgets anything, ever. People immediately started stitching clips together, side by side, comparing dates, ages, locations, events. They pulled up old interviews from years ago and put them next to the new ones. And the contradictions hit harder than anyone expected. It didn't look like an honest mistake. She wasn't just misremembering things or getting confused about timelines. It looked like she was actively rewriting her own past in real time, reframing it, rebranding it to fit whatever narrative she needed that particular week for that particular audience. Get this. Someone who actually knew her back in the day spoke up and said, "I knew her before Harry came into the picture. She was nothing like this. She didn't talk this way. Her whole vibe was completely different. Like, this is all fake." That quote hit the internet like a bomb. That's when people really started questioning everything. Not just the interview, not one story or single inconsistency. Everything. Every tearful moment, dramatic pause, carefully worded answer, an emotional story she'd ever told started getting replayed, analyzed, and ripped apart frame by frame. People went back years into her history, looking for patterns and proof that what they were seeing now had always been there. And when people start doubting your image like that, when that seed of suspicion gets planted and begins growing, there's no putting the pieces back together. The trust is gone. And without trust, every single thing you do going forward gets viewed through a lens of skepticism. Right after that interview mess, Meghan unknowingly poured gasoline on the fire, because out of nowhere, a pregnancy video appears online. And listen, this wasn't just some casual home video moment shared with fans. This was dramatic, theatrical, painfully overproduced. We're talking full production value here. Professional lighting, multiple camera angles, carefully chosen wardrobe, the whole Hollywood treatment.
She is the most insecure person I have seen in the public eye in a long time. That is why
Meghan's dancing around, spinning in circles, cradling her stomach as if she's auditioning for a role in a movie about motherhood rather than just showing a genuine, intimate moment of joy with her husband. Harry's there too, standing awkwardly in the background. And then Meghan begins kind of twerking. Yeah, you read that right. She's pregnant, doing this whole dance routine, and it's meant to come across as spontaneous and fun, but instead, it looked like something her PR team scripted and rehearsed 15 times before hitting record. The whole thing came off as unnatural, not intimate or real, more like a commercial. She was trying to sell the idea of her perfect pregnancy, her perfect marriage, her perfect life, and viewers picked up on that instantly. The comments section exploded. Viewers called it staged, performative, attention-hungry. The word cringe got thrown around a lot. Even her usual defenders, the ones who typically give her the benefit of the doubt, began asking questions. Why does everything look like a scene from a show instead of just being real? But here's where it gets really wild. Critics didn't just go after the vibe of the video, they went after the pregnancy itself. Commenters looked at the bump and said it didn't look right. Too big for how far along she claimed to be. Wrong shape. Sitting too low on her body. The internet went full detective mode, zooming in on screenshots, comparing angles, analyzing every frame. Some said it looked fake. Others pointed out the proportions were off. Comments like, "Where's she gonna give birth?" through her knees began popping up everywhere. Now look, I'm not here to speculate on what's real or what's not. I'm just telling you what happened and how the public reacted. The point is, this clip should have warmed hearts. It was meant to be this beautiful, shareable moment that made audiences go, "Oh, how sweet." Instead, it made millions cringe so hard they couldn't finish watching. And that gap between what Meghan wanted her audience to feel versus what they actually felt, that became a pattern following her through the entire year. But even that pregnancy video disaster wasn't the only thing collapsing around her. Her big Netflix project, the one built up as her creative breakthrough, her first true Hollywood stamp where she'd finally prove she belonged in the entertainment industry, quietly stumbled into disappointment. She launched a cooking show. And listen, on paper it sounds fine, right? Celebrity cooking shows are everywhere.
I just find her too hard to... She's. I think an Australian would say she's just full of it. She's a toffer.
They're easy content. People love them. But this one, critics tore it apart. Viewers didn't connect with it at all. One person watched just 5 seconds and said, "I thought she was going to hurt herself trying to zest a lemon." This girl has never been in a kitchen in her life. The show was called unoriginal, boring, overly curated to the point where nothing felt authentic or spontaneous. Every shot looked like it had been staged and lit and rehearsed 100 times. It didn't trend on social media. Never took off, couldn't do what her team desperately needed it to do, which was rebuild her image as a creative force in Hollywood. Instead, it became another reminder that Meghan's vision wasn't landing with audiences. Just one more expensive attempt to prove she belonged in the entertainment world that fell flat on impact. The reviews were lukewarm at best. The viewership numbers were disappointing. And worst of all, nobody was talking about it unless they were making fun of it. But then came something even more humiliating, the Kardashian incident. Now, this was so small on the surface, yet so embarrassing, it spread across the internet like wildfire. Here's what went down. Meghan attends Kris Jenner's party. Big event, lots of celebrities, lots of cameras. She's smiling for photos with the family, standing beside Kim, Khloe, and Kris. The kind of opportunity most celebrities would cherish and post about for weeks because getting into the Kardashian inner circle means something in Hollywood. It's social currency. And then the next morning, something bizarre happens. The photos disappear, not cropped where Meghan's just moved to the edge, not edited where she's blurred in the background, deleted, wiped clean from the Kardashian accounts like she was never there in the first place. She got erased, completely removed from the narrative. And Kris Jenner's silence, that silence was louder than any statement she could have made. Because in the world of celebrity PR, when someone as calculated and media savvy as Kris Jenner doesn't say anything, that silence speaks volumes. The internet immediately filled that vacuum with theories and speculation. Did Meghan make the party about herself? Did she do something that rubbed the family the wrong way? Did the Kardashians simply not want her image mixed with theirs because of all the baggage and controversy she brings? Nobody knew for sure. But what made it sting even more? Someone pointed out that even the Kardashians wanted nothing to do with her. The family that built their empire on drama and publicity and staying relevant no matter what, they deleted her.
Meghan Markle is trying to rebrand herself by treading on Martha Stewart's turf in her new Netflix lifestyle series with Love.
That says everything you need to know about where Meghan stood in Hollywood by that point. She wasn't just excluded from the images. She was erased from the story. And that moment became a symbol of how far she'd fallen in the eyes of the entertainment industry she desperately wanted to be part of. None of that compared to what came next, though, the Harper's Bazaar cover. This was supposed to be her big reset, the return, the polished, dramatic, cinematic moment where Meghan Markle reclaimed her place in the world of high fashion and cultural relevance. Her team hyped it up like this was the comeback everyone had been waiting for. The photos were shot by a renowned photographer. The styling was high-end. Everything was designed to position her as powerful, elegant, and untouchable. This was meant to remind everyone why she mattered. And yet, the moment those photos dropped online, the internet froze. But not in a good way. People weren't in awe or admiration. They were confused. Meghan didn't look powerful in those shots. She wasn't coming across as fresh or relevant or like someone stepping confidently into a new chapter of her life. She looked haunted. The lighting was eerie, almost ghostly. Her expressions came across as stiff and forced instead of natural and commanding. Everything about the photos seemed off. Like they were trying way too hard to be dramatic and ended up landing somewhere uncomfortable instead. And then the comparisons started. Not respectful ones, mocking ones. People immediately said she was doing Diana cosplay again, trying to channel Princess Diana's iconic elegance and tragedy, but completely missing the mark. Critics weren't buying it. They said she wants to be royal more outside the palace than she ever did when she was actually inside it. One person summed it up perfectly. She walked away from being a princess, but can't stop dressing like one. The article itself didn't help matters either. The language was over the top. The praise came across as exaggerated and forced. And then there was this bizarre detail where the butler addressed her as the Duchess of Sussex throughout the piece. That title, the one tied to the royal family she's talked about for years, the same family she claimed caused her so much pain. It all looked like Meghan was trying to live in two worlds at once. The royal life she walked away from and the Hollywood career she can't seem to conquer. And watching her cling to that title while simultaneously acting like she's moved on, it came across as desperate, like she wanted all the prestige and recognition from royalty without any of the actual responsibility or duty.
And it seems like that lady is a temptress. She's a siren. She's lured him into the rocks.
But her image problems didn't stop with magazine covers. Her business ventures were falling apart too. American Riviera Orchard, the brand that should have been her big entrepreneurial move, the one that would prove she could build something successful on her own, got absolutely dragged online. People mocked it. Customers returned products. Critics went after the branding, the messaging, the quality. Social media filled up with videos showing damaged items people received. Others pointed out that parts of the branding resembled other designs. The whole thing came across as half-baked and rushed, like it was launched before it was actually ready just to meet some arbitrary deadline. And here's the worst part, nothing about it looked authentic. Everything screamed curated Montecito perfection. That carefully filtered, aesthetically pleasing, but emotionally hollow vibe that people are tired of seeing from influencers and celebrities. Nobody wanted it. Nobody connected with it. It seemed like just one more performance, one more attempt to sell a lifestyle instead of offering something real. By the end of the year, Meghan didn't just have a few scattered controversies that people would eventually forget. She had a pattern, a clear, undeniable pattern of behavior that the public stopped trusting, stopped believing, and refused to tolerate. Every move she made seemed calculated. Every word seemed rehearsed. Every photo seemed staged. And once people see that pattern, they can't unsee it. Prince Harry didn't explode onto the most disliked rankings the way Meghan did. No viral pregnancy video, no deleted Kardashian photos, no disastrous magazine cover or fumbled dramatic interview that contradicted his own timeline. His fall was quieter than hers, and in a way, that makes it sadder. Because Harry stopped feeling like a man making his own decisions somewhere along the way. He started feeling like a passenger in someone else's story. Like someone who climbed into the car thinking he was co-pilot, but slowly realized he wasn't allowed to touch the steering wheel. There was a time when the world genuinely cared about Harry. Really cared. He was the human one, the funny one who didn't take himself too seriously. Cracked jokes at official events and seemed like he actually wanted a real life outside the palace walls instead of just going through the royal motions forever. People genuinely wished him well. They wanted to see him happy. They rooted for him to find his own path and live life on his own terms. But that version of Harry, the one who spoke from the heart and didn't seem like he was constantly performing or calculating his words.
Meghan Markle, to me, has lost all sense of reality about life. She
disappeared at some point. And nobody can quite pinpoint exactly when it happened. It wasn't one moment. It was gradual, like watching a light slowly fade out until one day you realize it's been dark for a while and you didn't even notice. Each interview they did together blurred his identity a little more. He stopped being a prince with a personality and turned into Meghan's husband, the supporting character. The guy who stands behind her at events, smiling politely, nodding along with whatever she says, occasionally chiming in with a brief comment before she takes over the conversation again. He turned into the background character in a Hollywood script he didn't write and probably never wanted to be in, And when Meghan contradicted herself or said something that raised eyebrows, people didn't just blame her. They blamed Harry for enabling it, for standing there silently while she rewrote history or spun narratives that didn't add up. Why doesn't he say something? People started asking. Why does he just go along with everything? Where's the guy we used to know? And then there was the hypocrisy problem. The one thing Harry could never fully escape, no matter how many interviews he did or how many times he tried to explain himself. The world didn't forget the speeches about privacy, the emotional talks about wanting to protect his family from the media, the tearful moments where he explained how invasive and damaging constant public attention can be. People heard all of that, they understood it, some even sympathized. But then came the Netflix documentaries, the book deals, the podcasts, the endless stream of interviews where private details got shared with millions of people, stories about his family, his childhood, conversations that should have stayed private. All of it packaged and sold to the highest bidder while still claiming they just wanted to be left alone. People felt misled and manipulated. It looked like Harry wanted to cash out on his royal connection and his family drama without admitting that's exactly what he was doing. The message was, leave us alone and respect our privacy, while the actions were, here's another tell-all project, please watch and buy. That contradiction, more than anything else, made the public turn away from him. Not with anger necessarily, just with exhaustion. With a sense of, okay, we get it now. This was never about privacy, this was about control and money. What really sealed his fate was how each time Meghan reappeared with a new scandal or controversy, Harry became part of the fallout. Not because he did something terrible on his own, but because he stood beside her in each moment, supporting all her choices, defending all her missteps.
Meghan is a trained actress. What she does is that she studies people. She's not a good actress, but she is a trained one, right? She's been doing it her entire life. And they're
smiling in all the staged photos, making it clear that wherever she went, he was going too, no questions asked. He disappeared inside her world, her projects, her narrative, her version of events, and the public stopped seeing him as his own person with his own thoughts and his own agency. They started seeing him as an extension of her, a prop in her performance. By the time 2025 rolled around, Harry wasn't disliked for who he is. He was disliked for who he'd become. A man who walked away from one system that controlled him only to get trapped in another one. And the saddest part? He doesn't even seem to realize it. Here's what's wild about all of this. 2025 wasn't just Meghan's bad year. It wasn't like she was the only celebrity dealing with backlash or controversy or public scrutiny. Actually, Hollywood was absolutely drowning in scandals. Dark scandals, tragic situations, unbelievable stories that dominated headlines for weeks at a time. There were celebrities with actual arrests happening in real time, people facing serious consequences, public drama, meltdowns captured on video, rumors and claims flying left and right, some truly disturbing stuff coming to light about people who seemed untouchable just months earlier. So the question everyone kept asking was, how does someone with none of that, someone with zero legal trouble, no arrests, no criminal charges, no public breakdowns, become more disliked than all of them combined? It doesn't make sense, right? Get this, those other scandals were shocking, sure, but they were also kind of predictable. When certain celebrities mess up, people aren't surprised anymore. They've come to expect it. There's almost a numbness to it now. Oh, another one? Yeah, figured that was coming. The shock value wears off quick because deep down, nobody's really surprised. But Meghan, she operated in a completely different zone. Her fall was shocking not because of what she did, but because of who people thought she was supposed to be. The former actress who became a princess. The modern fairy tale. The woman who was going to change everything from the inside and make the royal family relevant to a new generation. When that image crumbled, it hit different because people had invested emotionally in the story. They believed the narrative. And when someone you believed in starts looking fake, that betrayal stings way harder than watching someone you never trusted mess up again.
Hilarious. Like, if you sat down to write the character of a woman who'd thrown the royal family under the bus, accused them of racism.
And then South Park jumped in and turned the whole thing into weekly entertainment. They didn't just mock her once and move on. They kept coming back to it. They roasted her Harper's Bazaar cover before the magazine even hit stands. They turned her pregnancy dancing video into a running gag. They went after her Paris Fashion Week appearance, her interviews, all the photo ops and carefully staged moments. Each awkward thing she did, all the cringeworthy clips that hit the internet, became fuel for their writers. And the brutal part? Millions of people agreed with the jokes. It wasn't just comedy anymore, it was commentary. It was the public using South Park as a megaphone to say what they'd been thinking all along. The show nailed it in ways that news articles and social media posts couldn't. They captured the exact thing that made people uncomfortable about Meghan. That feeling that everything's a performance, that nothing's real, that she's always selling something, always positioning, always calculating how things look instead of just being. While the rest of Hollywood was busy being chaotic in obvious, explosive ways, Meghan was losing the one thing that matters most in the public eye: trust. Not because she got arrested or did something illegal, but because each time she appeared, something seemed off. Too curated, too contradictory, too self-important, too carefully crafted to fit whatever narrative she needed that particular week. People didn't sense they were watching a celebrity living her life authentically. It looked like watching a character trying to convince the world she's something she isn't. And that emotional disconnect is exactly why she rose above everyone else on the list. Her image couldn't carry any more weight. It cracked under the pressure of its own performance. When people sense someone is real, genuinely themselves, they forgive almost anything. Second chances get handed out. Comebacks get rooted for. People want to believe the best, but when it comes across as performing, when manipulation feels present, nothing gets forgiven, each mistake gets magnified, each misstep becomes proof of a bigger pattern. Look, South Park is known for satire and for going after everyone. No celebrity is safe. They've roasted royals before. But this particular series of jokes was scathing in a way that seemed different. Because underneath all the comedy, there were details that people recognized and connected with. Things they'd been noticing but couldn't quite put into words until someone else said it out loud. And
that was the thing for me that I thought was just so disgusting, was, utilizing Princess Diana, someone who was very well loved in America.
Once those cracks showed, once the performance became obvious to millions of people, shows like South Park simply highlighted them for the world to laugh at. They turned the uncomfortable feelings everyone had into punchlines that landed because they were based in something real. In 2025, authenticity became the currency that mattered more than anything else. Not perfection, not polish, not carefully curated Instagram grids, or professionally shot videos, or perfectly worded statements. Just realness, just being yourself, flaws and all, without the constant performance. When audiences sense someone is genuine, they stick around through the mess, defend them, and give them room to grow and make mistakes. But when everything appears scripted and staged, people bail, stop caring. And worse, they start actively rooting against you. That's why Meghan didn't just land at #1 on the most disliked list. She stayed there with no real competition. Because at the end of the day, people weren't mad at her for doing something terrible. They were exhausted by the constant act. And exhaustion is so much harder to recover from than anger. Listen, Meghan didn't become the most disliked celebrity of 2025 because of one scandal. It wasn't one scandal, one mistake, or one bad viral moment. The real reason is way bigger than that, and honestly, way simpler. People didn't get angry at her, they got exhausted. Tired of the story that never seemed to end. Drained by the contradictions that kept piling up. Worn out by the constant reinvention of a woman who refuses to admit she's reinventing anything at all. It's one thing to make a mistake and own it. It's another thing entirely to keep changing your story and acting like nobody notices. For years, Meghan built this whole narrative around herself. The misunderstood outsider who nobody gave a fair chance. The silenced woman who was finally finding her voice and sharing her story. The victim of a system so cold and cruel, it nearly broke her spirit completely. And for a while, people believed her. They really did, feeling empathy and offering support. Millions truly wanted her to win, hoping to see her succeed and prove all the doubters wrong. The public was on her side, ready to defend her against criticism and give her the benefit of the doubt whenever questions came up. But something changed, slowly at first. So subtle you could barely notice it happening, and then all at once, like a switch flipped, everything shifted. The story stopped matching reality. People began noticing the contradictions piling up faster than they could be explained away.
And you slowly close the laptop, and that's it. You've been bullied online.
The carefully staged moments that were dressed up and sold as authentic, spontaneous experiences. The dramatic interviews that kept repeating the same themes over and over without taking any responsibility for anything. The emotional speeches about privacy delivered while cameras rolled and Netflix crews followed her around. The inspirational messaging that felt more like branding than genuine wisdom, more like selling a product than sharing real insights. And beneath all of it, running through everything like a thread you couldn't ignore. Once you saw it, there was this sense that each move, word, and gesture existed for one purpose only: to elevate Meghan, to center her, to make sure she remained the focus of attention no matter what was happening. Once that realization settled in, once people couldn't unsee that pattern anymore, the magic disappeared. Not from hatred, not because anyone was trying to tear her down for no reason. From repetition. The same story played out the same way too many times for anyone to believe it was coincidence. And when the magic disappears, trust is the next thing to go. Always. The conversation shifted from, why is Meghan like this, to something much harsher. Something that cut deeper and hurt worse than any tabloid headline ever could. Years of interviews about how the royal family treated her while still using the titles they gave her. Harry talking about needing to escape that life while still cashing in on his royal connection whenever possible. It seemed like they were after the benefits without the responsibilities, the status without the service, the leverage without the loyalty. They were positioning themselves as independent, while still clinging to the very things that made them famous in the first place. And people noticed. Boy, did they notice. When Meghan posed on that Harper's Bazaar cover and got introduced again as the Duchess of Sussex, critics absolutely exploded. The comments sections lit up. Social media went wild with questions. If she truly hoped to be independent, if she genuinely wished to step away and build something on her own merit, why cling to a title that belongs to a system she claims harmed her so badly? And if Harry genuinely craved a life outside the institution he grew up in, if he really needed freedom from all those constraints and expectations, why keep using a title that ties him to it forever? Why not just drop it and move on? To so many people, it appeared calculated and intentional. The couple seemed to have abandoned everything about being royal except the parts that benefit them.
Meghan Markle, just complaining. I was like, didn't she hit the light skin lottery?
They walked away from the duty, the service, the responsibility, all the hard parts. But they kept the perks, kept the titles, kept the connection that opens doors and gets them invited to exclusive events and makes them money. Old controversies began resurfacing. People went digging through past interviews and timelines. Each smile got questioned and statements got analyzed frame by frame. Once the public decides someone is playing both sides of the game, details become evidence. Everything gets re-examined through that lens. People didn't turn on Meghan because she made honest mistakes that anyone could make. They turned on her because the mistakes appeared intentional, calculated, performed for maximum effect and sympathy. And in that gap between the message she was selling and the reality people were seeing, something snapped. Not just trust, respect. The kind of respect you can't buy back with another interview or another perfectly staged photo shoot or another emotional statement. Once it's gone, it's gone. This is why she became the most disliked celebrity of 2025, and why more people than ever now believe she and Harry shouldn't hold those royal titles at all. Not out of cruelty or spite, out of clarity, because the story they're telling no longer matches the crown they still wear, and people are tired of pretending they don't see it. Here's what makes this entire situation fascinating, though. Meghan's fall, it isn't final, not even close. People talk about her like she's disappeared from the spotlight, like she's hiding somewhere licking her wounds and planning to never be heard from again. But she hasn't disappeared. Not at all. She's out there launching projects, doing interviews, showing up at Hollywood parties with that same confident smile, trying to rebuild a brand that keeps slipping through her fingers no matter how tightly she tries to hold on. And if there's one thing Meghan Markle has proven over the years, one consistent trait she's shown again and again, it's that she never stops trying. Ever. No matter how bad the headlines get, how much backlash she faces, or how loudly people say, "We're done, we're tired, we don't want to hear from you anymore," she always finds a way to come back. Always has another angle to work, another message to share, another emotional chapter to unveil, another way of explaining why this time, this relaunch, this rebrand will be different. Maybe they will be. Maybe she'll figure out what went wrong, actually change her approach, and find a way to connect with audiences authentically instead of through carefully calculated PR moves. Or maybe 2025 is only the beginning of a much bigger shift.
Earlier today, Suits actress Meghan Markle married some unemployed dude who still lives with his grandma.
A moment where Hollywood, the public, and even Meghan herself are forced to face the consequences when a narrative no longer matches what audiences expect or believe. Because here's the thing, love her or hate her, and trust me, plenty of people are firmly in both camps, Meghan remains one of the most talked about figures in the world. Articles about her get clicked. Videos analyzing her behavior get watched. The reactions are strong, whether positive or negative. That attention, even when it's negative, counts for something in today's media landscape. That's exactly why she's number one on this list. Not because she disappeared and everyone forgot about her, but because she refuses to disappear. She won't stop pushing forward, won't stop trying to stay relevant, won't stop demanding attention, even when that attention has turned almost entirely negative. This isn't just about controversy or scandal. It's way deeper than that. This is about visibility in the modern age. The price of constant reinvention when people stop believing your transformations are genuine. What happens when the world stops believing the script you're reading from, but you keep performing that same script anyway, night after night, refusing to acknowledge that the audience has already left the theater? So, tell me in the comments, do you think Meghan can actually turn this around? Can she rebuild trust with a public that's completely exhausted by her? Or is this the point of no return, where no amount of rebranding or emotional interviews or perfectly staged photos will ever work again? And if you want more deep dives into the biggest celebrity collapses, scandals, and Hollywood chaos that everyone's talking about, make sure you hit that subscribe button. seriously, we're just getting started with these stories. There's so much more coming. Because this saga, everything surrounding Meghan and Harry, it's just getting started. So what do you think? Can Meghan turn this around, or is it over? Drop your thoughts below. And if you want more breakdowns like this, hit subscribe. We've got plenty more coming.